Hello again everybody and welcome back to the channel. I'm McSnazzy and today we are back in Planet Zoo playing in Ranger Park Zoo, our brand new project here on Planet Zoo. This would be episode 2 of the series. If you haven't seen episode 1, you can check it out in the playlist in the description below. Now in this episode we are expanding out from our initial front entrance building, and I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to do this or where exactly I wanted to go. This is probably the hardest part of the project so far, and really in any project, because you got to figure out where you want to lay things out. You're not quite sure. After you build the front entrance, you want to make a nice front area where everything to go, but now you got to figure out where exactly you're going to put everything. How you're going to lay it out. Do you want a plaza? Do you want to put a pond out front? Do you want to do something different like that? Do you want to have an animal right out front? Some nature? It's open and there's a lot of things to do. So for this project I decided to go with a nice opening pond, sort of like a lake. So when you first enter into the zoo, you're gonna see this. There's gonna be some nice flower beds and a little dock area for you to rest on, and a nice little front plaza with a pond. And the paths kind of circulate around this pond, and I thought that was a cool idea to do it. So without further ado, there's going to be a lot of cuts in the beginning of this video. Because the video is so long, I had to trim a lot of the content down, because we end up doing a lot more in this video than I planned on doing. I planned on just doing a staff building plus some of this front entrance stuff, some of the planning, and like the bathroom you're seeing on screen right now. But I explain more of that in the real-time portion at the end of the video. But for now, I just wanted to give sort of an outline that, yeah, we do a lot in this, so it's a long one. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and enjoy it, because we do a lot of cool work on this, and I'm really happy with how everything turned out. So to kind of catch up with what's on the screen, actually, this is the first sort of build I wanted to do in this area. It is actually a bathroom, and it's going to change a lot from what it looks like right now. I kind of wanted to go for just a really bland-looking bathroom building, because there's nothing very glamorous about the toilets, and it's just one of those things where if it looks really bland and kind of boring and gross, it looks really realistic, and that's sort of what I'm going for here. So that's really kind of the idea I have. So it's not really the most glamorous build, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. But I don't get back to it until a little bit further in the video. Right now we're going to build a little bit of a dock area. I want to have a little walkout outcropping here out to the pond, so you can kind of look out to it. If you want to just relax here, wait for someone else to come meet you at the zoo or something. If you have to wait for people to show up before you go and look at the animals, this would be a little area for you to do so. And when I looked through the street view of a lot of these zoos that I'm using references on to make this look super realistic, there's a lot of these little like bench areas at the beginning of the zoos that I've looked at. So I think that was a realistic thing to put in here. A little meeting area for people, or if you just want to get everything situated, someone's got to use the bathroom or anything. But this is sort of what we end up with the bathroom building here, and I'm happy with how it turned out. And I like sort of the aspect of bringing that natural light into the bathroom building with the little bit of skylight we put on there. But I kind of wanted to add some detail to the front of this bathroom here, because it's really bland right now, with it just being like a flat facing building where it just cuts off really cleanly, and it just seems like a little too tall and missing a lot of detail to make it look like a realistic sort of building that they put in. So I wanted to add this little like canopy sort of area, if you want to call it that, a little bit of a patio, I guess, to the building. And we're gonna put some more stuff in there that is practical, and I think it adds a lot of realism. But yeah, I just wanted to use disgusting wood piece here, so I just grab a painted beam, and I paint it white so it looks like it's like weathered white paint from like 1980 or something, so it looks more like a realistic sort of building, because it looks older. It looks like it's weathered, it's been there for a while. It's just a basic bathroom building that's been there since the zoo was made. So I thought that was a nice realistic aspect to bring in. I didn't want to make the coolest looking bathroom ever, it's just a bathroom at the end of the day. And I think making your buildings look not super visually appealing in some cases where it makes sense to not have super pretty awesome buildings it brings another level of realism to the game and to your projects. So I think that's something that you can try in your own park, and that's something I'm going to try to do throughout this zoo as well, because I want to go for this, hyper realism, and I think that adds a little bit more of a challenge to the zoo projects, and I think they just look better in the end, even if not everything's super over the top and Disneyland glamorous. So what we're going to add under this sort of gondola pergola thing here is we're going to add some lockers and some ATMs. So I wanted to add a little bit of something under this because it just looked super big. And these lockers are an item I got off the workshop. I've been trying to use some more workshop items in this playthrough because I think it is a good thing to do. If someone's made something really nice, it's not a bad thing to use it. You don't have to make everything from scratch necessarily, even though we make a lot of things from scratch here. But these lockers are by Shawnee89, and I will have the link to it in the description. But they're great. I mean, they're recolorable. I changed them from green to blue here, so it sort of matched the bathroom sort of feel, blue and white, the basic colors for a bathroom. And yeah, they're great. And I end up using another one of the locker pieces, the little computer thing, later in the video somewhere else. So those are great. Thank you, Shawnee89. Appreciate the contribution here. And that's going to pretty much cap off this bathroom build for the beginning of the park. I think it looks great. I think it's very realistic looking and something in sort of an older style that sort of blends in really well. So we're going to move on to the next build of this video, which is probably the biggest build of this episode, which is our staff center. Now for the staff center, I wanted to do something a little more glamorous, and not necessarily glamorous, but a little better looking and professional than I've made before. So I wanted to make sort of a functional building that looks like it's used every day, and it's sort of like state-of-the-art, quote-unquote, sort of facilities for like research and conservation, a lot of things that zoos are really about. So I wanted to go for sort of a feel there without building like a super modern, like all glass metal building that looks super futuristic and just out of place in sort of a practical zoo. There's no like new zoos. Zoos have been around forever, so a lot of them were built a long time ago. So I want to hit something that looks like it's been updated, like it's been there, but they've made it better. Maybe they've made a new building, but they didn't go like over the top super modern. So went for this breeze block brick here, and I really liked how it looked. It looks professional, not super modern, but I don't really know a lot of building terms, but I like how it looks. It looks good. It looks like a more serious building, like a research conservation staff center that also like looks like it's nice architecture that they had designed by an architect, something like that. One of the bigger ticket buildings in the zoo itself, because this is where a lot of the staff is working every day. This is where they're doing research on animals, doing conservation projects, managers, blah, 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 will work there. This is like the big sort of corporate building along with, staff. So I really like what you did here. We started with just the stone on the bottom, but I wanted to put these glass pieces along the top, and I think it looks really nice. And we end up taking out those glass pieces later and just using the New World window, because it looks better with the opaque like window style without the glass necessarily being in front of it, making it super glossy. And you'll see that more when we get to it. But just this basic simple roof, wanted to use these metal pieces, some pretty bland colors here, lots of grays, lots of dark colors, but I think it works. It looks like a like a serious building that looks nice. Exactly what I was going for. Really happy with how it turned out. Probably one of the best buildings I've made in Planet Zoo, I would say. So I'm really happy with the result. But here's a little trick we're doing here with the staff path. I want this to be a functional staff building where we can put all of the little individual staff buildings inside, like the little pieces you give you, the little like drywall blocks, of the staff buildings. And I think it works out. It's great. We end up fitting every single starter staff building that you need in order to start putting animals into your zoo, because there's sort of this block that the game does where it doesn't let you start putting animals in until you place down X, Y, and Z staff buildings. So we end up fitting all the staff buildings in here so we can actually do an animal in this episode, which is why the episode ends up being so long, because I didn't plan on necessarily doing animal along with all these front buildings here that we build in this like front main plaza. What we're adding onto the side of this is a little guest services building, sort of like an info building for the information kiosks that they have in the game. And a lot of the zoos that I looked at in the street view to get reference off of had these guest services buildings at the front of the zoo. So I thought it was something that needed to be added, and I thought it would look good if it kind of was like with this sort of research building here, because I wanted to put the staff building sort of on display at the front of the zoo. I think it looks cool. Not something that you're gonna walk up and do something with, but that you'll see and you'll be like, wow, this looks like a nice building, you know, and it's like more professional, and it's something that looks cool at the front of the zoo, but not necessarily something that you're gonna walk up to and do something with. So I think that was a cool thing to add here, and I really wanted to put it on display in this project as my Timber Gorge project, my last series, if you haven't seen it, with the staff center that we built. It's really off to the side and hidden. It's even across a river, so, and it just did not look good like this one does. It looked more like a barn, and you know, I've come a long way since that series, so I'd like to, you know, do some bigger buildings and more nicer looking structures. So that's what I really wanted to do with this staff building, and I think it turned out great, and I'm really happy with the result here. And sort of this tiered staircase here, I think this adds a little bit more realism as we cut big there, but that's how we end up there, and it looks cool. Back here's a little bit of a back staff parking that I've added here. I think it adds more of a realistic aspect. I wanted the staff to be able to park somewhere separate from the general parking and have sort of like this you know, gated off area where the staff drive back and they can access the research center from the back. So I thought that was a nice realistic aspect to add, and I'm happy that I did because it looks really good. So here's our sign, our TRB Research and Conservation Center. I wanted to add some sort of initials or something onto the into the title of the building, because you see that a lot with these buildings. It's like the John Adams Research Conservation Center, the something something something. So TRB is one of the longtime subscribers on the channel, and so the initials just worked, so that's what we go for here. And now we're gonna do sort of these flower beds out front. There's sort of these like tiered flower beds, and this was probably my favorite part of the whole build. I think this made it look super realistic, added a lot to it, and they're tiered like here, but I have no idea what to put in these planters, so I just kind of threw stuff in. So yeah, I hope it turns out good in the end, but if you end up using this workshop item, feel free to change around the planters, because I just kind of throw stuff in. I end up throwing in a dodo statue too. I just thought it looked nice, you know, a little more playful, because it is a zoo, but you got to be a little goofy sometimes. But you know, I like how it turns out, and this looks super professional. It ends up looking really realistic in the end, and I'm super happy with how it turned out. And I know I've probably said that a bunch of times, but that's what it is. Now this front area here, I put the mulch out. We don't actually leave the mulch here. I kind of leave it as grass. I'm not sure what to do there. Now I thought you just leave it as lawn, you know, they'll mow it and it'll be realistic in that sense. And I also wanted to put a tree there, but if I put the tree there, then it blocks the view of the building, and you know, I can't take a nice screenshot of it, or it just blocks the view. If you're a guest walking in, you can't really see the building as clear. So I might go back and put a tree in front of it now that we've, you know, taken the screenshots, and we can use that as the thumbnail for this video. I'm sure you saw that in the front. But I don't know, maybe you guys can let me know in the comments of what you think is good to put in this front lawn, or if it should just stay the same. You know, it's a little lawn area. So there we put the realistic rails on the side there, so it's a little bit of railing. Now I wanted to add something that I've never done before, and make it handicap accessible. So a little bit of realism again, as that's a big theme that I'm trying to do with this zoo, to really bring it to life, is add realism. So a little handicap ramp up to this building, you know, makes it ADA approved, and so of course that's something that we should add, and you know, we end up adding it here. I think it adds some realism, but a lot of the footage that got cut out because this video is getting kind of long. So here we're gonna end up finishing a lot of this pond area, just adding a little bit more foliage, rocks, making it look more natural and pretty. A lot of this is cut out, but I wanted to show a little bit of the process here. If you were ever stumped on what to do when you're making sort of a natural area. I want to show that it's good to, like, you know, come up with sort of base things. Like for me in this case is the cattails mixed with the reeds. I sort of made a few of those at the starting, and then I'm like, hey, let's just copy and paste them around, and it helps fill up the area without going too crazy, going back and forth between pieces. Now we're just adding a bunch of birch trees around because I realized, hey, you know, birch works well in this climate. We haven't really added any of them, and it's just another tree to add a little bit of a variety here to our foliage and vegetation. Now we're going to scrap the polar bear statue here because I think it just looks too simple, a little too goofy. Maybe we can add that sort of if in our bear area, because I will definitely have a bear area in the zoo with the polar bear. But for now, I think just a basic fountain just looks like any run-in-the-mill generic fountain that you'd see at the front of any run-in-the-mill theme park, zoo, anything really. So I just thought, hey, that's probably a better way to go here, even though it is a zoo. But the polar bear one just didn't sit right with me. It wasn't super front entrance-y, extravagant. Not necessarily that it has to be super extravagant, but it wasn't like front entrance-y for me. I just think this feels a lot more realistic, you know, front area. Hey, you showed up to the zoo, let's go explore. So that's what I went for here. Now you get to watch a little bit of footage of me messing around with the arch shapes. This was a lot of fun. It's awful in the end, but I wanted to add it here so you can see, hey, not everything has to look super good, but I wanted to make a little bit of a turtle here, a little arch-shaped turtle, because, you know, in these pond areas, I wanted to sort of bring them to life. And I think in a zoo, there'd be wildlife in these pond areas, and, you know, turtles basking on the rocks. I wanted to put some turtles out there, and we put some ducks out there too. And after making this turtle and how badly it turned out, yeah, look, it's just a big blob, but I ended up getting some ducks and swans off of the workshop by Kingdom, so check that out. I will put that in the description as well, like all the other workshop pieces I use, and I think you'll see just a little bit of a clip of me using them here. Yeah, see, they're there. You faintly see them. You'll see more of that in the real-time portion of the video. But now we're going to start moving along, and, well, now we're outlining. But we're going to start moving along to doing the animal. Now, this is sort of an extra part of the video. I know I promised in the last video that I'd add an animal in this episode. Well, hopefully. I just felt like it was good to add an animal. And in episode 2, because I remember in my last project I didn't, so I wanted to do it here. I think, you know, when you watch Planet Zoo videos, you want to see exhibit builds, so that's what we're going for here. So I wanted to start with a basic starter animal. We end up going with the Tapirs and the Anteaters because they can actually live together happily. So I wanted to add them together. They're pretty cool animals, but pretty basic, so nothing crazy out of the gate. Just a nice starter animal for the front of the zoo. Now, I wanted to make this sort of starting animal habitat a little smaller because I remember in my last project, I made some of the starter animals' habitats super big. Like I made the red pandas and the flamingo habitat just way too big. They had so much space, which I guess is alright from a conservation standpoint, but it didn't seem realistic enough to me. That's probably not enough. That's just way too much space. They don't need that much space. So this one may be a little too small, sadly, but I think it looks good, and it's a good starter animal and a good starter habitat. So this is just you know, a warm-up animal. I know in the zoo that I frequent the most, the first animal that you can run into other than the butterfly house is an otter. So an otter is sort of a basic starter animal. If you want to see like the lions or the bears or the polar bears or something, you got to go all the way to the back of the zoo because they want to get you all the way back there. So you got to start off with some small animals. So that's what we do here. To spice up the habitat, we add a pond here because the tapirs need swimming area, so we got to make them happy. Now I did for this zoo project turn off aging, breeding, and all that because I remember in the Timber Gorge project we just ended up with so many animals in the end. I remember looking back at the flamingos, I had to sell a bunch like throughout the whole project because they just kept breeding like crazy. So now we're just gonna do the animals, we'll put them in, and if we want a baby somewhere, you know, we'll turn off aging for a second, have them breed, and then turn it back off. So it stays a baby forever, so it'll be awesome. But hopefully that's a good workaround, so I don't have to deal with all these problems that the zoo will get when you have too many animals and then they get unhappy, etc, etc, etc. It all snowballs from there. So I want to cut back on a lot of those problems by just starting off with no aging. We turn that on. No fighting, no starvation and stuff, because the zookeepers in this game suck. They have a really hard time feeding the animals, and they always seem to be out of food and unhappy. So we turn all that off, we won't have those issues. So that's basically my idea there. So I just wanted to get that out of the way at the start of this series so that you know what's going on. So with that being said, I still want to make the animals happy, so I still do everything that they would need to make sure their happiness, so that the habitats are realistic and they work well for the animals. So they needed hard shelter. Of course, we're going to build a little bit of a hard shelter here with some rocks. Nothing crazy, but a little bit of a cave for them to go down in and take a little nap, and I think it looks good. It looks natural. And this is just sort of a basic building thing that you can do to make hard shelters, is just use rocks and sort of make a divot in the ground. It kind of works, but nothing crazy for this enclosure. This is nothing super like extravagant. Just do a lot of foliage work, but we make it look pretty and realistic in the end. And I'm happy with how it turned out. So soon we're going to be jumping into the real-time portion of the video where I explain a lot more of this stuff in detail, and I actually go through it this time instead of just recording a real-time portion and then talking over it. I'm actually talking while recording it, so it's a little more interactive and I can explain a little more of what I was thinking and why I did certain things. So I'll let it play until then, and I will see you in the real time. Hello everyone, now we are in the real-time portion of the video, and I'm just going to walk you through this time. So here we're back at the beginning. Haven't done a whole lot here. I added these little sort of accent pieces to the pavement out front here, just a little bit of a mural because I thought it was pretty boring. Helps break this up. I know the terrain's kind of glitchy here because the paths kind of are hard to deal with in this game, especially when you go on two diagonals and then have to go back to a straight. So that's just something, maybe I'll figure out how to address that in the future, but without further ado, let's move forward and see what we did in this video. We did a lot of things. We built this whole front area here. Ranger Park Zoo, another mural to break up the ground, and this whole front pond looks nice. These little flower beds. Not sure if I'm super happy with what I put in them because well, I just kind of threw a bunch of stuff in there. Thought it looked nice, but a lot of the zoos I took reference from just have a lot of flower beds at the beginning and throughout, just full of random foliage of any sort. So I just thought throwing a bunch of stuff in would be perfect and would work well. Here's a little bit of a mural I did. I don't know if I put a little bit of the recording in the video, but it's sort of the Ranger Park Zoo Conservation Foundation, something like that. Just a little bit of an organization that the park sort of is sponsored by, or, you know, maybe the Ranger Park Conservation Foundation owns the park, and it's like the Zoological Society of the park. It's just the organization name. So I thought this mirror looked cool. It helps to break up this bland area out front, because as you saw in the time lapse, we built this up, but this area was left kind of bland. So I did a little bit of off-camera work trying to make this nicer. The gift shop, we put a few of these. I made these little shirt racks, because I always see these out front of the gift shops when I go to the zoo, or just like amusement parks and stuff. They try to attract people by having go in, let the people go inside. It's nice because we got a little bit of just a memento in there, so people can buy things from there. But yeah, and these signs, they don't really go with it, but I think it looks like, you know, it's a gift shop. It helped break up this front area, make it look a little more realistic. I think it adds a nice touch. And then these little paw prints I put in, I don't know if you saw them. This is as dark as I can make them, sadly. This is as the blackest black that I could pick. Sadly, it doesn't sort of relate to this. It's more of like a dark gray. But we'll have to do what we do. But I thought these little paw prints were a little nice touch, you know, little more zooey, more childish, more playful. I feel like zoos are a little more serious than theme parks, but they're playful. They're for the kids, and so I like that. Here's the first build I think you'll see in the video. We did a time lapse of this ugly looking lockers, bathroom, ATM building, but I love it. You know, the bathroom buildings at the front of these places are never glamorous, and I wanted to make it sort of like that. I wanted to make it a bland building that just looked like a bathroom. I got these lockers from on the workshop from a fellow. I don't remember the name, but I'll put them in the description with a link to it. Thank you for these. These are fantastic. They work great. They help break up this front area. When I built it, it was a little too big of an area out front to make it seem like, you know, it would have it out in front of a bathroom building, but with the lockers it just makes it all better. I don't know what you'd use a locker for at a zoo, because you're not really going on a theme park ride or anything, but you know, I saw these in a lot of the Google Maps, like first person walk arounds. Every zoo that I looked at had lockers at the front of the zoo, so I guess it's just something that they have. Maybe they had back then and they just haven't moved. A couple of ATMs, recolored them to match the lockers, and the bathroom building, I love it. Looks great. No backstage access here, because I thought with the bathroom building, you know, maintenance would just walk in and do what they had to do inside. So it's not like we really need a back entrance, and we're trying to go for the realism here. So that's something I thought about, but didn't put into this building. But I'm really happy with the build. I think it looks nice for being a bathroom. Just a bland bathroom with a little bit of natural light coming in. I thought that was cool. This way, haven't really worked a ton on. This will be future episode, but want to do a little bit of a retaining wall here so you can look over the pond with those little art-shaped ducks out there. This is where we're going to put our train that we're going to have go to the back of the park and throughout, so you can get to the back of the park when you first get there if you want to pay for it, and then walk back to the entrance to leave. It's a really cool aspect I've seen at zoos, and I think that's what we're going to do in this one, and actually make it work this time, unlike in the Timber Gorge playthrough. This dock is just a little bit of an outcropping, so you can look out at the nice fountain. I switched from the polar bear fountain because I thought the polar bear one just looked a little too bland, and I was happy with this. I was happy with this little fountain here. It's just, you know, a classic fountain. It just looks like what it would be at the beginning of a zoo in the nice entrance pond area, but love the foliage around it. Could use a little work still, but it looks good. It looks good enough for now. Here is the biggest build of the video, unless you consider the animals that. But the research center, I love this building. It looks great. This houses all the staff buildings that we need, and the staff actually go in. This is a staff path. They kind of like glitch through the floor a little bit, but I love how it looks. Kind of just threw a dodo into this planner, make it a little more playful. But I really love how this turns out. It looks professional, looks good, looks like a building you'd see at the front of a zoo. And this is where all the staff, you know, do all their work. If you want to look inside, all the buildings are scrunched in here and they work. So if you guys want to download this, I'll put this on the workshop. The link will be in the description as well. for a good start to your zoo, and you can kind of adjust it as you will. And also guest services right here. Saw this building in a lot of the zoos I was looking at for, you know, inspiration and reference to make it more realistic. Put a little bit of an info guy in there so it actually works and the peeps will walk up to it and get in there. Made this ramp access, not sure if it's in the time lapse, but you know, make it sure it's handicap accessible, adds a little bit more realism to the whole project. So let's move down this way. Actually, before we do, let's take a look at the back of this building. I did a lot of this off camera, I don't know if you've seen it, but I'll talk about it here. Staff parking, for sure. You're going to need that in a zoo. We built these on camera, I believe. This is the thing from the lockers that will be in the description as well. Great piece. I kind of reused it over here, so thank you to the author of that. Really appreciate that. But yeah, staff would go in, they'll park, and I'm thinking we'll put a warehouse over here, maybe a couple other, you know, staff backstage warehouse buildings where, you know, they house stuff. They're probably going to get shipments of whatever, you know, animal feed, etc. And we're going to make a little bit of a, you know, semi-truck back up here, so onto this warehouse. And that's really what the sand's representing here. So I want to talk about that. If you saw in the time lapse, I was putting sand there or something. That's what it's for. This parking lot may need to be a little bigger, so it might extend more this way. There might be more zoo staff than just this much. This I kind of want to leave open for the warehouse access, so maybe we'll extend it more this way, but let me know what you think in the comments. These dumpsters, awesome piece again. Link in the description. I did not make these, another workshop item, I think by Mr. Domez, and they're fantastic. They look great. Add a little bit more realism to this backstage area because you know, the dumpster truck will probably come pick it up in this staff area. Added this staff back entrance, so you know, the staff, if they're coming into work, they'll park here and they can go in through here, and they can also enter through the front while they're working, but I think it just adds more realism that there's a back entrance here, and I think it just flows really well with what I'm trying to do with this whole research center. So I'm super happy with how this turned out, and I thought the whole video was just going to be this, but then I remember I promised that I would add some animals, so let's go take a look at those. Sign here I made off camera. Haven't put anything on it yet because all the sign pieces just, they don't look that good, and I kind of want to do a custom font for this, but I didn't really have the time for this video, so I'll get back to doing that and we'll add it, and it's gonna say Tapirs and or Tapirs and Anteaters, of course. But here we go into it. I love how this turned out. We moved the path back a little bit from here. It was really close, so you couldn't put trees and foliage in between, and I think there needs to be a breakup between every habitat and the main path because I think it flows a lot better, so the guests aren't looking from the main path to look at the animals. So if they have a designated area where they should look at the animals, they will, and it'll be less crowded on the main path, and I think it just flows a lot better. But here's a nice view of the habitat, the anteaters down there, looking great. Really like how these turned out, and happy they added them with this South America DLC. I know it's not in like a South America area. I don't know if we're going to separate this zoo into that. I think more of along the lines of we'll put bears in a certain area, we'll put big cats in a certain area, apes and chimps in a certain area, stuff like that. Instead of Timber Gorge where we separated it by continent, I think I'll do a little more of that this time because I think it's more realistic. At least the zoos that I've seen or been to have more of that sort of sense. Custom fence here, just using the Planet Zoo beam pieces, wood beam pieces. I think they came with this pack. I don't remember them being here before when I was doing the Timber Gorge, so I think they're new. But yeah, here's their little cave. Love putting this little leaf thing out front because they'll go through it to go to sleep. But the foliage looks great. Really happy with how this turned out. A great first exhibit with some pretty basic animals. You don't want to start out with like the lion out front or anything. You want to start out with little animals. For my last project we did flamingos. I think tapirs and anteaters did do great. I was gonna just do anteaters, but then I looked at their in the Zoopedia. If you don't know how to do this, you can look at these animals in the Zoopedia and you can see that they are enriched by being in a habitat with other animals. So in this case they are enriched by being with the tapir, so I wanted to put the tapir in, and I think just adds some realism. It looks cool, and it's nice seeing these animals interact and get along as he's taking a little dirt bath. That's so cute. The animals look great in this game. Love how the habitat turned out. Not sure if I am a super big fan of this change of color here. The yellow that we added with these sort of South American trees. I don't know if I'll remove that because it kind of is out of place, and I don't know if it would work seasonally if we're going for the full realism sort of deal. So that's something to look at, but I think it just looks good. It's a nice looking habitat. It's a good start. We'll get further into making more animals in the zoo in the future. A big part of this video was the front entrance area, sort of getting it laid out. But we ended up doing a lot of work. So this one might be a long one, but I think it's worth it in the end. Here's also a little area, little sit out area. You can look at the pond. My art-shaped turtle that looks awful, but you know, I think it gets the job done. Every time I go to the zoo, they have you know, big ponds or lake areas, and there's just a bunch of painted turtles chilling on rocks. So kind of want to do that here. These ducks were also another workshop item. I don't remember by who, but I will put it in the description, so thank you to the creator of that. Check it out if you guys want something like that. It's just made with art shapes, pretty simple, but it adds a little bit of realism to this pond. Sort of breaks up that it's just boring. I think in a real zoo you'd have ducks flying in here, you'd have turtles, and you know, fish of course. I have a don't feed the animals, like don't feed the turtles, don't feed the ducks. But you can sit and watch them and enjoy yourself and have this nice fountain view. Future plans, let's talk about that now. So right here, I think I'm going to put a butterfly house. I know there's no butterflies in the zoo, in Planet Zoo yet, but a butterfly house is something I think almost every zoo has, and I think it's a realistic aspect I want to add. Something at the start of the zoo, it's not like too crazy. It warms you up to getting back to the bigger animals and looking at them, but I always have fun in the butterfly zoo when I visit, or the butterfly house when I visit the zoo. It's a fun little thing to have, and I think we'll build that right here, maybe next episode, and move out more this way, that way. Maybe do backstage. I don't know, it's kind of all over the place at this point, but we'll see what I figure out when I start recording that next episode. But as for now, I really want to do a butterfly house here. I will put the exhibits in there, like the tree frogs or something, so the guests will walk in and use it. But it won't be our reptile house, it won't be our amphibian house, but it will be a butterfly house. And maybe just one exhibit in there so we don't use everything. But yeah, that's about it. That's what we're looking on doing in the future of this project. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I had a lot of fun making it. A really good time building this. Really fun thinking about the backstage aspects. It's new to me. I tried to make the last zoo project a little realistic, but I'm really trying to go crazy with the realism on this one. Sort of make it as realistic as possible, like with these little fields with trees. Like this, I feel like is an area that you just see, and people would mow this, you know, so and so. They'll mow this area too, and it's just realistic. There's not tons of foliage, but there's a lot of trees and a lot of grass, I feel like, in zoos, or at least the zoos I've been to. But yeah, so that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Please let me know if you like that real-time portion there where I sort of explain things that I'm doing in real time. If that's a better way to do it, let me know. Thanks again for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this and want to see more. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you guys next time.